Hey campers, what's up? It's Yana. Welcome to day 7 of Camp NaNoWriMo July 2020. It has finally gotten slightly warmer in here. It was so cold this morning. I was like, Scotland, what is wrong with you? It is July. It's a little bit better now, so I'm happy with that. It's still gloomy outside. I actually kind of wish it would rain. Anyway, I told you guys yesterday that I would give you a little bit of an update today on how I did, and I did well. Like I said, I edited some stuff, I figured out some details about my novel. I'm not completely done with that, so we're continuing on with this task, but I did manage to get enough words in to also stay on track for my Camp NaNoWriMo goal. I don't remember exactly how many, but it doesn't matter. It's enough words. And I have been doing stuff today, but I just couldn't be bothered to turn the camera on. This morning, I have been thinking, mostly in the shower, about how I'm going to change the original fairy tale that I'm basing my musical on, in order to make it more interesting and modernize it and make it my own. And I've also been working on a song for the musical. Unfortunately, I can't really share that with you in this video because it's too many characters singing in it. So in order to show you, I'm probably gonna have to use Audacity and record my voices separately and do it like that. We'll see. So that's a topic for a future video. You will still probably see it. But mostly I've been trying to figure out what changes I'm making to the plot and characters. And so that's what we're going to chat about today, because I love rewriting fairy tales. It's so much fun. I've already talked about how Eliza is different from the original Eliza. The original Eliza is just this really nice, beautiful, virtuous, special snowflake, which is fine for a fairy tale, but not that great for any sort of modern story, musical, novel, movie. It shouldn't be good for anything. You don't want that sort of character. So our Eliza is a lot spunkier. She has a lot of opinions. She really likes talking, and she sometimes really steps in it and offends people without necessarily meaning to. But I've already talked about her. So now let's get to her brothers. In the original story, she has 11 brothers. Obviously, I am not writing 11 central characters. That would be insane. So in order for them to have actual personalities, I'm cutting that down to 5. So our Eliza has 5 brothers. 3 of them are older than her and 2 of them are younger. And they were cracking me up this morning as I was writing this song, because it's the opening number, and we kind of have the whole family, all of the siblings represented in the song as they share opinions about what's happening, and the brothers were really fun to write. So the 2 eldest ones, they are twins, but nobody's sure which one of them was born slightly earlier. So it's not very clear who the heir to the throne is. So William and Valdemar are their names, and their father, who is not the nicest person in the world. I mean, he wasn't that nice in the original story either. He was kind of an asshole. But in this, he's a little bit more in it, and you can really see why he's an asshole. He's really encouraging this rivalry between his 2 sons for which one of them he's going to name the heir. So the 2 of them are always bickering and fighting and comparing and trying to show which one is better than the other. And then the 3rd brother, his name is Oscar. he is the one who is most like their dead mother. So he's a lot more reasonable. He's trying to keep the rest of his siblings kind of under control. And he is a little bit less spoiled than the rest of them. I'm going to talk about like the fact that they're super spoiled, all of these children, a little bit later on. So poor Oscar, he's kind of the sensible one in the family. Then after him there's Eliza, and after her there's August, who is really intent on getting his father's approval, and he's quite good at a lot of things, and he would be fairly successful at doing that, except he happens to be gay, which is not something that, you know, his father would appreciate if that was actually mentioned to him, because he's not he's not completely in the closet, because I think the entire court knows that he's gay, but he's not openly gay. And then the youngest child in the family, Felix, he's possibly the one that's most spoiled and most detached from reality. Not necessarily like being a bad child, but he just has no idea what the world is really like, because his mother died while she was giving birth to him, so he has absolutely no memory of her, and she was the one parent who was any good at raising children, and she was also the part of the royal couple that was a lot better at ruling a country, because their father has no idea what he's doing. And so because of that, Felix just has a lot to learn, and he's also quite young. He's still a child in the story, because he's quite a bit younger than Eliza, and he has kind of adopted her as his mother and is still kind of sticking to her skirt at the point where the story begins. Now, I mentioned that these kids are really spoiled. There was a line in the original fairy tale that really left an impression on me, and it talks about how the princess, all of them, all 11 of them originally, were going to school where they were writing with diamond pencils onto gold like slates, and I was like, I understand this is a fairy tale, but first, this sounds shockingly impractical. And say, like, how do you even do that? Diamond pencils onto gold plates. And then second of all, this sounds just so ridiculous and wasteful. And while they were doing that, little, beautiful, perfect Eliza, who obviously wasn't going to school, because they're mentioned going to school, but she's not. She was spending her time looking through a beautiful picture book, which cost as much as half the kingdom. That's a lot for a picture book. And I was like, okay, so what is this king even doing? Like, why is he throwing so much money out on ridiculous things? And these kids must just have absolutely no clue what normal life is like. So yeah, that's pretty much the case. The king is spending money on just the dumbest shit, and his children just don't, they don't know what's happening out in the kingdom. The kingdom isn't doing that well. You know, people were poor, people were unhappy, and meanwhile, these kids are writing on gold plates, because that's the king's idea of what princes and princesses should do. So they have a lot to learn throughout the course of this story. They are characters who are good at heart, but very ignorant in many ways. And then the other character who is very interesting to me is their evil stepmother, or what was originally the evil stepmother, she's still the antagonist in this. She's a little less evil. So originally she is a queen that the king marries, and she happens to be a sorceress. In this story, she pretends to be a princess from a distant land. She actually isn't. She's actually from this kingdom, and she is a witch. And she has been treated badly throughout her whole life for being a witch, but also she has been seeing all of the bad things that the king is doing just because of his complete incompetence, and she's seeing the suffering of the poor and all of that. So she is kind of very bitter about everything, and does rather resent these children for various reasons, particularly Eliza, because we discover a little bit, like a little way into the story, we discover that Eliza is a witch. So the queen is particularly resentful towards her, although she doesn't know it. She doesn't know she's a witch. She was just born a witch. She has the abilities. She hasn't discovered them, but the queen knows, the new queen. And she is particularly resentful towards her because she has been persecuted her entire life because of her gifts, and here's this girl who is just living this life of luxury and just has no idea, you know, what trouble and strife is. She has just been raised as this perfect angelical child. Well, okay, not this perfect angelical child, that was the original Eliza, but still, you know, is a very privileged princess. And she's also not particularly fond of the boys for various reasons. So she does want to get rid of all of the children. Her goal is to become queen. Her goal is to get rid of the king without... She's not really planning murder. It's not her MO. But her plan is to get the king out of the way. She has a plan for that. And become queen. And she's convinced that she's going to rule this country a lot better. So she's kind of in between wanting to take revenge on everyone who's been horrible to her and offended her. But she does also to some extent have noble goals. Kind of. And she has some development throughout the story as well. She does end up being the person who eventually tells Eliza how she can break the spell on her brothers. I didn't mention the spell itself, but like that's the same as in the original story. She turns them into swans. They are swans by day, and then they turn back into boys by night, and she sends them away. She can't do a spell on Eliza because of Eliza's innate abilities. So spells just don't work on her because she herself is a witch. In the original story, it's just because she is that pure and that kind and that beautiful that magic just doesn't work on her, which, you know, no, in this case, it just doesn't work on her because she's a witch. So she, again, gets rid of Eliza through other means, but does end up later on not so much apologizing and, you know, falling on her knees and being like, oh my god, no, I'm so evil, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna help you now. But she does kind of grudgingly assist, I suppose, with information and with that sort of thing, so that Eliza can work on freeing her brothers from this spell. There are other characters that I've thought about as well, especially the king who falls in love with Eliza later on. but I'm still kind of working on that and still developing them. So that might also be a topic for another video, what else is changing further on in the story. And I think this is all I'm going to share with you for now. Let me know what you think. Would you watch this musical? Is this a story that you'd be interested in? Or would you even read this as like a book or a novel? Who knows? Maybe I'll write that as a book someday. There's so many fairy tale retellings out there. They are a popular kind of thing that's always fun. But for now, it's a musical. Yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know as always how your Camp NaNoWriMo is going and what you're working on, and just anything you feel like leaving down in the comments. And I will see you again most likely tomorrow with another video. Bye!